with.
So let's talk to somebody who was there on the front lines that day as we continue to learn more about the emotional and physical toll the day had on the members of law enforcement who bravely defended the Capitol on January 6th. Former Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilino Gonell will be our guest in a moment. But first, a bit of what he recounted in a hearing a few months after the attack.
To be honest, I did not recognize my fellow citizens who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, or the United States that they claim to represent. The rioters called me a traitor, a disgrace, and shouted that I, an Army veteran and a police officer, should be executed. For most people, January 6th happened for a few hours. But for those of us who were in the thick of it, it has not ended. That day continued to be a constant trauma for us literally every day, whether because of our physical or emotional injuries or both.
And former U.S. Capitol Police Sergeant Gonell joins us now. He's out with a new memoir titled American Shield, The Immigrant Sergeant Who Defended Democracy. Sergeant, thank you for being with us this morning. It's great to have you back on the show. I'm just curious, before we dive in a little bit to the book, your reaction as you hear leadership in the Republican Party and loud voices in the media try to rewrite the story of what happened on January 6th.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back. In respect of the new Speaker of the House conflating some of the events and trying to rewrite history is amazing. This is the same person who probably is a material witness to the events of January 6th. And if I were in his position, now, of course, I would also want to blur out some of the images. But then again, this is coming from a party that claims to be in support of law and order and the rule of law. When he says in the same sentence yesterday, he said, we support we are the party of law and order. We want to blur out some of the faces so these people cannot be arrested and prosecuted. And also, to our dismay, also saying that he wants to be transparent. How can you be transparent and when you can't even separate those things in the same sentence? In relation to what we are experiencing, and since January 6th, they keep telling us that we need to move on from that day, the officers and those of us who have spoken out, but yet the former president is running just on January 6th alone by calling those insurrectionists hostages. And if they are hostages and political prisoners, what does that make us, the police officer? We defended the Capitol, we kept our oath, and we did what we were signed up for.
Sergeant Gonell, you came to the United States of America when you were 12 years of age from the Dominican.
Yes,
Within
sir.
a decade, you were going to Iraq wearing the uniform of the United States of America as a United States Army member. Then you became a member of the Capitol Police Force, and you wore the uniform of the United States Capitol Police.
Yeah.
We know what happened to you. We know what happened on January 6th. What do you think today of the United States of America?
I mean, it's we're going through tumultuous times. It's amazing that a lot of, as I speak in my book, American Shield, you have a lot of people that claim to be conservative, claiming to be supportive of the Constitution, our democracy, and we have even gone to war for it. That's one of the main reasons why we ended up in Iraq in the first place. And as a soldier and also as a police officer, I devoted half of my life to defend and protect this country. And January 6th was no different for me. And to hear some of these people, the very same people who I protected and ran for their lives with the time that we allowed them to go and hide in their safe house or evacuate the building, saying that first it was Antifa, then the FBI, then these are innocent people, then these are political prisoners, then these are hostages, then they desecrate our national anthem with creating a January 6th anthem, and the former president also use that as a badge of honor. So this is desensitizing and condoning that behavior for future use. And it's amazing that they had abandoned and betrayed those principles and values as I speak in my book.
So, Sergeant, on the topic of your book, American Shield, which is available now, tell us a little bit more about your long road to recovery after the injuries you suffered there on January 6th, and what you think about your own future.
I have made a lot of strides, both physical, mental, and also morally. It's been, from the image that you showed me testifying in front of Congress, is almost 3 years. It's night and day for me. A lot of the physical injury has healed. However, the moral and the mental are the one that plays a big part in my life, because how can I, if I were a police officer still, how can I do my job impartially when some of the very same people who I protected now say that nothing happened? And if something else would to happen and insurrection part 2 happen, will they help me secure the door of the Capitol, or will they restrain me to prevent me from doing my job? And so that's a constant fear I think some of the officers who still work at the Capitol may have. We are protecting. Yes, we're supposed to be neutral in terms of those things, but how can you not when some of the very same people who we protect are calling for threats, amplifying those threats, and desecrating the sacrifices that officer like Signe paid the price for as a result of his doing and action that he took on that day. And he didn't die perhaps out of a hit, but he died as a result of that horrific day on January 6th. And many people need to realize that it was not a peaceful protest getting out of hand. Was a deliberate attack, as I mentioned in my book, American Shield. And people need to learn. My story, my book, is not just about January 6th. It's about sacrifices that I have made throughout my life since arriving here in the United States at age 12, learning the language, assimilating, overcoming a lot of obstacles and adversities, and also devoting half of my life, both in the military and as a Capitol Police, to defend this country for the opportunity they had given me.
So, Sergeant, this is like, let me just say, I am so grateful for you and your service to America, an immigrant who came to this country, who learned the English language, who not only assimilated and succeeded, but chose to wear the uniform, to serve our country in combat, and then to become a police officer. It is an extraordinary story, an American Shield. What a book. I would guess that Fox News is calling you nonstop to have this incredible patriotic American success story on. When are you going to go on Fox News and Newsmax and the Joe Rogan show? We're very excited about. I want to know, because I want to VCR it.
I'll tune in.
We want to tune in, because this is patriotism personified in one man, and I'm so grateful for your service to this country. When are you have any plans to go on Fox News or Newsmax or any of those shows?
Well, they had not reached out to me. If they do, I'll let you know, so you can tune in and record it. But I'm willing to speak to them. I mean, these are the same people that claim to be wanting immigrants like me, somebody who assimilates, somebody who come here legally, somebody who get an education, somebody who pays for their taxes, somebody who joined the military, somebody who is a police officer or was a police officer, somebody who protected our democracy. These are the check marks that they claim to want from immigrants when they talk about reform. And yet, as I speak in my book, American Shield, these are the ideals and principles that they don't want to talk to me because I don't fit their narrative of it was another entity other than Trump supporter who attacked the Capitol. And it's a great disservice to people like me and people around the country, because they are clearly lying to the American people when they say nothing happened on January 6th. What I would like to have is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, to release the tapes of themselves running for their lives, with the time that when they were being evacuated by the Capitol Police while I was fighting in the tunnel. Those are the tapes that he should be releasing, not the walk around peaceful protest that he claimed to the people were doing.
Well, unfortunately, he's lying to the American people when he says he wants transparency. He wants the opposite. He doesn't want people to see what happened to you, what happened to other officers, what happened when members of Congress were running as quickly as they could to escape. But I just want to get back to you and just thank you for your service to America. I want you to know that here at least, I don't know why other networks wouldn't want to have you on. Here, at least, we salute your patriotism. We salute your service to this country. We salute you going into combat. We salute you for all of your service in Iraq. We salute you for wearing the uniform as a police officer. We thank you. And we're very grateful you came here. The new book is entitled American Shield, The Immigrant Sergeant Who Defended Democracy. What a great American story, Mika. It makes me proud to be an American.
Well, it does. I mean,
where at least I know I'm free.
Exactly. And
I mean,
you would think
seriously.
that news networks will cover this story as he has written his story about his place in history.
Why wouldn't you want to cover this story?
Sergeant
It's incredible.
Aquilino Gonell, thank you so much for being on this morning.